did the idea of Tezos come to your mind, and what brought you to Web3?
I got interested in Bitcoin super early on. I would say like 2010, 2011.
Do you think anonymity is killing the mass adoption of blockchain by regulators?
I think most blockchains have no anonymity whatsoever. I think they're even less anonymous than traditional finance.
We're so sorry we have to ask you this, but legally we need to ask you exactly why do you use this money into.
So hello everyone, good morning. This is Sudeep from CoinGabber reporting live from Token 2049, and joined with me is the man himself, Arthur Breitman. I mean, we know him from so many roles. Earlier Goldman Sachs, into the financial side of things, and then Google X. And then later on came the name LM Goodman. So I would like to start with what is the legend with the name?
Allegedly LM Goodman. The Tezos white paper, physician paper is from 2014.
2014, yes.
It is pseudonymous. It is named after LM Goodman. Now, if you do some sleuzing, you might say LM Goodman. Could it be Liam McGrath Goodman, the Newsweek reporter who identified Satoshi Nakamoto by saying maybe he went by his real name? So my theory is that LM Goodman is actually Liam McGrath Goodman, saying that makes more sense.
That's fair. So, coming from Goldman, then from Google, tech was, in your mind, you being a computer scientist and into data. How did the idea of Tezos come to your mind, and what brought you to Web3?
I got interested in Bitcoin super early on. I would say like 2010, 2011. Followed it for a while. I got into several rabbit holes. One was deficiencies. The cost of mining came to mind. It's the cost of mining is it's inflation. You have to pay for it. It's expensive, that's bad. And people will say, well, yeah, but don't worry, because there's a maximum of 21 million, it goes to zero. And I'm like, then your security budget goes to zero. That makes no sense. You either have a security budget and then you have a bunch of unavoidable inflation, or you don't. So I looked into proof of stake. And sometimes people think proof of stake, proof of work from energy conservation perspective is not been my perspective. It's a matter of cost. It's way more cost efficient to do proof of stake, and you get better security properties. And a major motivation for Tezos was that people online had really bad ideas around proof of stake. They were very wrong about it, and I was itching to prove them all wrong. And total victory, proof of stake has won. I think Bitcoin will be the holdout, but everyone else has moved to proof of stake. And all the silly argument you heard is, it's so depressing where people said, it derived its value from being proof of work. In the dust. Love it. What else? Well, there was also privacy. So privacy was missing from Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And it wasn't clear how to solve it. And then I saw these papers, first a zero coin paper, and then a zero cash paper. I'm like, my God, we have a solution. And so at the time I start talking to some Bitcoin core developers, and I'm like, when is that getting into Bitcoin? I'm like, oh, no, we're not going to do that. Wait, but lack of privacy is a major problem in Bitcoin. Why would you want to do that? It's it's improved technology, and we also don't want to change Bitcoin. And it was so strange. I had a 2012. No, I want to say it's earlier than 2012, maybe even 2011. But 2011, I want to say, or 2010. I was in London, just visiting. Cassin, who was my wife and was my girlfriend at the time, and then I just decided to go and I kill some time in a hackerspace. And I think the person I met then was, I'm not sure, but I think it was Amir Taki. And we start talking about Bitcoin. I was trying to build a small Bitcoin project at the time, and I mentioned to him, I don't know, because there's all of this issue that there's all of these design that are emerging for proof for privacy and for proof of stake, and you could do better. And he says, well, yeah, but Bitcoin is not an algorithm. It's not a piece of code. Bitcoin is a ledger, and as long as you preserve the ledger, you can change the code. And that really opened my mind, and I was like, yes, well, that's fantastic news. Indeed, we don't have to do it. But then, I start thinking about this for the next few years, and I'm like, well, this is great, but who gets to decide what the code changes to? How do you get consensus on this? And then like responses start to emerge. People from the open source world say we're going to use fork-based governance. We'll just have fork it, anyone can fork it, and then you can follow the fork you want. But that doesn't work because your ledger needs to be unique. And so you can't have it both, and you're not going to follow the one you like, you're going to follow the one that everyone else follows. So it's very circular. You don't really have a free choice. And I realized, well, the blockchains are consensus-making machines. Can we actually use them to get consensus on what we want to do? And the most obvious way to do this is coin voting. So the idea of Tezos is like, we are the beginning of a boom in terms of innovation, in terms of technology, or what we can do in blockchains, but we want to remain decentralized. How can we do this? You build on-chain governance, and then you ship it, of course, with like some of the most important features, having smart contracts, having a proof of stake. Privacy came later in Tezos. It was like too big of a bite to chew at first. And I think to be honest, I think it was a mistake to launch Tezos as a proof of stake from day one. I think like being faster to market with a protocol, with a barebone protocol, with just like proof of work, transactions, no smart contract, nothing else, and then evolving, probably would have been a better choice. But the rest is history.
Everybody shifted to proof of stake later on.
Will you come again?
Everybody shifted to proof of stake.
Yeah, of course.
And not just the energy concerns, but there are other things, to my perspective, I'll just tell you a bit about my background. I come from the financial auditing side. 20 years into that career, and I'm 5 years into blockchain. What I see is I have audited large financial institutions as well. And what I've seen is that centralization is the crux to regulations. You can control the larger perspective. I mean, they are controlling the narrative, but you are able to control the flow if you're having a proof of stake kind of mechanism. Because that is only when an infrastructure, a chain, a solution can be made for the institutions, not for the public by and large. So Bitcoin is basically a public ecosystem run by everyone, anyone and everyone. Whosoever wants, he can enter, have a mining rig and enter. But the more private chains are there, the better it is for the institutions to adopt it for the public utility, not just for building the Web3 ecosystem, but for the projects of public utility. So how do you see Tezos fitting in that direction?
Well, first I would disagree with some of what you said. I mean, rather I would take it as it's an argument that people have made against proof of stake. They said, Bitcoin is permissionless because anyone can mine, whereas in a proof of stake network, you can't just come in and join it because you first need tokens. And I always thought this was a bit ridiculous because it's like, okay, so, what's really going to stop you is going to be conspiracies that no one is going to sell you the token. Well, if your token is not circulating anyway, your network is not really a network. So it's a very contrived argument against proof of work. The idea is that you could be kept out of proof of work because somehow you can't buy the token. I find it a bit ridiculous. And then some people will say, oh, well, yes, but maybe 50% or like 1/3 of the validators can prevent you from making any blocks with your tokens. And I say, well, yeah, but 50% of the miners can do that. It's like, but you could buy a number of miners equivalent of the total amount of the network. This is argument that Bitcoiners really make.
Who has the time?
No, but it's just the time. It's also like there's like a couple of vendors of ASIC come in, but there's millions of vendors, the millions of people who will sell you the token. There's like a couple of people who will sell you ASIC. So it's a really close argument. But like fundamentally for me, the main raison d'être of the blockchains is to be this decentralized and permissionless system. It's resilience to regulation.
Right.
I think that's a value prop, and people sometimes like regulatory arbitrage is a bad thing. No, regulatory arbitrage is great. I think we live in an over-regulated world with a lot of bad regulation. And a lot of what you achieve with the blockchains and the decentralization, it's not that you're not violating the regulation. It's just that the regulations are very focused on regulating centralized actors. Now you introduce systems that don't have the centralized actors. So you don't have the regulation that can apply to them directly. You have, money transmission. For example, regulation says, once you take possessions of customer funds, all right, then we'll have system with payments without possession of customer funds. Now, for the past few years, what happened is government looks at this and this is like, wait a second, it looks like it's bypassing our regulation, maybe violating them. No, it's not. It's just doing it a different way. And it's just that when you built your financial surveillance system, you assume there would be intermediaries. Well, guess what? You don't have to have intermediaries. And that's the thing. Now, I'm not saying there's no value in some of the corporate use cases with blockchains as well. I think the value is lesser, but it's still there. You have a system, it works, it's auditable. One of my favorite example here is the example is getting old now, but it's still valid, is Starbucks. So Starbucks has billions of dollars in Starbucks prepaid card. And many years ago, someone found a hack where you would go on the Starbucks website to transfer money from one card to another. And if you do 2 requests at a time, you could get your $10 from one card to 2 cards and double your money. Yeah. And it's funny because, what you need to do is you need to do an atomic transaction in a database. And if you take a database course in university, in the first lesson, they will tell you when the test is going to be and who the TA is. But in the second lesson, they will tell you about atomic transaction. And somehow, Fortune 500, major company with all of its resources, mess that up. So having systems which are very reliable and have been very well tested that can do these transactions and have these cryptographic audit trails, even if you're not in an adversarial environment where you need decentralization, it's still useful for enterprise. And we've seen a lot of those enterprise use cases.
One example that comes to my mind is if everybody's health data from childhood is on blockchain.
Yeah.
You're going somewhere in a different country, you meet with an accident.
Yeah.
You're admitted to a hospital, you are allergic to a particular antibiotic.
Yes.
And the doctors don't know that. They administer the same antibiotic and you're dead. Or maybe you suffer a serious problem.
Yeah.
But if it is on the blockchain,
yeah,
they can easily retrieve it, the data, they can see what all you are allergic to, and they might administer the right set of drugs. This could be life-saving at point in time. This is just one example of how blockchain can be useful in real-life use case scenarios. The most important thing is that it is non-temperable. That is basically the fact focus of blockchain. You cannot go back in time and tamper with the data. So anything non-temperable ledgers, right? You rightly said it is a ledger and it cannot be tampered with. That is the crux.
So it's a bit more than that. So you have technologies that will give you non-temperable data, which are cheaper than blockchains. And so for a while, I was very much you don't need a blockchain for this because you have this slightly weaker system that will give you the same properties with lower cost. But maybe that argument is overstated because the cost of blockchains has dropped so much. But if it's cheap anyways, yes, in theory, for example, for medical data, you could have, instead of a blockchain, if you wanted a decentralized system, you could have a distributed hash table. Or you could have a distributed content network, and you can still use hashes and cryptographic proof, and then you'll have your immutable structure. But you could also do it on a blockchain because this hypothetical network that I described, I don't think there's one that's running right now, and the blockchains are running. Maybe you could use Filecoin or IPFS for this type of things. But the blockchains do work. But the one problem that they do solve the most is they achieve mutability with immutability. It's this thing. It's you have an immutable data structure, but somehow I can take money from one account and link to another account. That's a mutation. Right. So it's an append-only data structure that represents mutation. And that's a double spend problem. That is the main problem that they solve. And so as a result, yes, we can have identity-based solution. We can have all these use cases, but I think the ones which will be the most at home is anytime you have to represent ownership and then transfer of ownership.
One more thing on a theoretical level, what I would like to ask you is that, do you think anonymity is killing the mass adoption of blockchain by regulators?
I think most blockchains have no anonymity whatsoever. I think, they're even less anonymous than traditional finance. And I think that's bad.
The KYCs are not done in the crude terms. The know your customer regulations, the identification is not done on blockchains. So what it is, the regulators are worried about that only.
I think less so. The fidelity has gone down, and you've seen with the Genius Act, for example, in the United States, that the business, it's now essentially allowed the business practice of stablecoin issuers. And stablecoin issuers, they will KYC you when you create or when you redeem, but they don't KYC every single endpoint. Instead, they use some type of chain analysis. It was not always a given that the regulators would let that happen. I think for a while the thinking was that, when they get to it, they will force you to KYC every single endpoint, and it didn't. And that's a good thing. I believe broadly KYC is a bad thing. KYC is a thing that hurts user. Now, it's important to comply to regulations, but you do it because otherwise bad things happen to you, not because there's virtue in it. And I think fundamentally the insistence on KYC and the way it's pervasive in society now, it used to be that, it was for banking transaction. I live in the UK now with the OSA. You need to do KYC if you want to access websites. They want to force you to use KYC to use Wikipedia now. It's ridiculous. And it does nothing. It does not stop crime. It does not stop money laundering. I think there's like some notion of control, some hope. Probably has more to do with like taxation than I think it has to do with money laundering.
Yeah, taxation, flow, the control over the flow of money, that is basically the prime concern of the government. But I mean, leaving the economics and the market part apart.
Yeah. I mean, part of like, look, one of the reasons I got into cryptocurrency is like, there's been many things on my way, but I remember I bought a piece of property in the US and I had some money in France. Well, I had to send a wire to the US. And then, in France, they said like, please send us a justification and proof of the need of funds.
Oh.
And I was just that's my fund. I know. And, I don't want to blame the bank because the bank is forced to do it. But you know what I wish the bank would do? I think they should start with like a 2-paragraph apology saying the government is forcing us to do this. And we're so sorry. We know it's your money. We're so sorry we have to ask you this. But legally, we need to ask you exactly why do you need this money and to make a proof. This is not on us. They will shut us down if we don't do that. Like they should add this to every single email and it would make me feel much better.
But these institutions, I mean, why decentralization is so celebrated?
Yeah.
Is that because these institutions are too snobbish to accept their mistake and too proud to do these things, to actually write apologies, whatever the case?
No, I don't think it's too proud. I think it's because I'm a weirdo as well. And like a lot of people don't necessarily.
I tell you what, I have been in the banking and insurance system
Yeah.
for like 3-4 years in my life. I have served the largest bank of India and I know how it works. I know how sometimes to deal with the customers, even the larger ones. So I'll not go into that direction. But coming back to Tezos,
Yes.
what are your plans? What is the future? And what is the horizon for Tezos in your mind? And in your mind,
The horizon.
not the declared ones. What vision do you plan with this? Because a visionary like you must be having like a landscape of at least 10 years down the line that I'm going to do this, the ABCs of.
It's not that. I think AI is changing everything. And so it's hard for anyone to have, I think, a 10-year window because it makes a huge difference. Like a small percentage in like the compounding rate of AI over the next couple of years is going to make a huge difference. So, broadly speaking, I'm focused on 3 key areas for this blockchain. The goal is like very wide adoption. I think many people are looking for this. But I'm specifically focused on getting as many users. Now, what is a user? You might ask, like, what is a user of NASDAQ? Well, is it someone who holds a stock in your stockbroker? Is it someone who connects to the exchange directly? The way I define a user for a chain is anyone who has the discretion over a budget to pay a transaction. Great. And you want as many users as possible because if you're going to charge, essentially you want to have billions of transactions that cost you 0.01 cent and that you charge for 1 cent. And if you have only a customer doing a billion transactions like this, they will care a lot about 1 cent versus 0.01 cent. But if you have 100 million customers, it's like, oh, well, it's 1 cent. Why do you care? It's like if I ask you, like, how much is a shaker, how much is like 100 grams of salt at the supermarkets? And if the price of salt doubles tomorrow, you will not eat less salt.
Yes.
That's, you will still buy the same amount.
It is a necessity.
But if you are a big producer of like TV dinners and the price of salt doubles, actually maybe you make a difference. So how do you reach as many users as possible? And so broadly, art and culture has been an approach. I think collectibles. There's been a big, I would say, disinvestment in the space from collectibles after 2021 and a lot of the NFT mania. But I think people like to collect things, and especially as more and more of our lives move digitally, and as also more and more content is being created by AI, like people will want some form of scarcity. So I think that's one aspect. So like arts and culture is a big one. Like you have hundreds of millions of people collect music, and it still has not been cracked on the blockchain. Gaming, the gaming industry is huge. Gaming is bigger than movies and music combined.
Right.
And again, I think
I came across a very good concept for NFTs that is the reselling of tickets for music concerts or concerts.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's a lot of scam going on.
Yeah.
That people sell tickets. Click the photos, give it away to 10 different people, and everybody's like shouting, "We don't get the ticket."
yeah,
NFT could be a solution for that.
absolutely. And again, like really good product market fit with the blockchain because you actually have like to transfer ownership. You have a double spend problem. Like what you describe is a double spend problem.
Double spend. The double spend problem is basically one of the things in the land registry records.
Yeah. The tricky part is like I feel like a lot of tickets are like sold via the market because people want to like cater to their fan and such, which creates all the scalping problem, but also means they don't want the tickets to be transferable.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a tension here. Gaming, look, huge industry,
Huge potential.
and in real world finance. People talk about real world assets, but I just don't want to do real world asset. I want a real world finance. I don't want the asset to just settlement chain. Like coming from, there's a lot of really cool DeFi primitives. So, on the gaming side, like in a couple of days, there's a AAA game, Reaper Actual from John Smedley. He was one of the creators of Request, who's hitting their foundation alpha. So they're going to be selling NFTs representing bases in the game. Super excited about this AAA game coming to Tezos. And then on the finance side, like recently we pushed the tokenization of Uranium on Uranium.io. And I think it's an extremely important commodity for the future. Everyone's buying nuclear power plants everywhere, but the mining of uranium is starting to take off, but it's slow. And I think we might see a supply crunch on uranium, and if that happens, it's really good for the commodity. But
And lithium for that matter.
yeah, so we're looking at lithium as well. We're looking at cobalt.
Yeah.
So why is it that there is no liquid spot market for uranium?
Exactly.
Actually, there is. It's on uranium.io. It's the only game in town. So like everyone's like busy tokenizing, like creating like the 100th gold token or like the 20th version of the tokenized Tesla stock. And I'm like, okay, sure. Like there's an audience for it, but like it's still something no one has done before. It's more exciting. And it makes more of a difference in the world.
That's fair. I mean, that's a real point. We can see that commodities can be monetized, which are beyond the access of the common public. You cannot just go up to a grocery store and buy uranium or lithium, but you can gain on the momentum of those things in the market.
So there's no
That is actually decentralization.
There's no proper ETF for uranium. There's an exchange-traded product, but it's a fund. It don't do creation redemption. So as a result, it trades at a premium or discounts to the uranium markets. This token actually on Uranium.io gives you beneficial ownership of the uranium. There's no fund manager. We're very proud of that.
Yeah. That's great. So Arthur, anything that specifically you would like to comment upon the transition in the industry over the past 3 years? I mean, I've seen a lot of meme projects going away and giving way to the real life use cases like yours and so many others.
I mean, the meme coin, I think like part of it was a reaction as well to like the US government trying to shut down crypto as much as it could. And like the meme coin in a way was one of the most legally defensible position, this was the incentive given by the SEC. They would say like, if you have a project, like, it's okay to take money from people, but don't you dare do anything with it. You have no, like if you spend it on yacht and you tell everyone that their money's gone and nothing's going to happen, like perhaps you were in the clear with them. And God forbid, if you try to do good things, they would come after you. So, obviously that's changing. And with it, we're going to see a lot more. 2 reasons. One is like because the legal threats being removed means more people can build, but also like some institutions who are saying like, well, the government doesn't like it, therefore I'm not going to touch it because I don't want to be punished by the government in some other way, are now rushing into the space. And you see it with the Genius Act and, like Stripe getting into this the space and all the banks. So
that's fair. So industry is changing. Industry is changing for good. Things are happening in the space. Real life is being touched by the use cases put up by the blockchain. And a lot of good people, big people, and people who are resilient to changes, who actually want to build something good are coming into the market, like Arthur, bring up a real life use case scenario.
I mean, we've been there for a while. So Tezos launched in 2018, 7 years continuously. The Alan Goodman papers from 2014. So it's been 11 years.
11 years into the space. That's great, Arthur. So guys, this was Arthur from Tezos. And we had a great time talking to him. And as of now, I must say that there are a lot of things coming up in this ecosystem. Tezos is the one to watch. So if you are having any inclination towards how tech can solve some problems, some real life problems, and you really want to step your foot into the ecosystem, you should be watching out for Tezos in the times to come. And with this, I come to the end of this session. We'll keep bringing you more interesting stuff from Token 2049. This is Sudeep from CoinGubber signing off. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.